Hello, 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 and welcome to my existential crisis. My name is Madison Epley.
I'm Hailey Guffrey.
And this is the podcast where we talk about all the really fucked up things that send us into, you guessed it, an existential crisis. How you doing, Hailey? I haven't talked to you all week.
Everyone at school is sick, so I am not feeling great this evening.
No, I'm sorry.
But
well, hey, guess what?
Okay. What?
I'm also not feeling good. I have bronchitis and an ear infection.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
We should just start keeping like a tally of how often you get bronchitis. It's seriously.
Honestly, yeah. I episode 1 I had bronchitis, and now I think this is gonna be episode 9.
Jeez.
Yeah. I have my inhaler though, so I go into a coughing fit. Anyway, how else are you doing besides feeling sick?
I don't know. It depends on how my car is doing tonight when we go get it from the... Yeah, I took my car in yesterday to get it inspected, and I went in knowing it wouldn't pass inspection because there was a problem with the light, but I figured there was other things wrong with it, and I didn't know what they were, so I just went in.
Gotcha.
There were like 5 things they said needed to be done for it to pass inspection. I said, okay. And they gave me an estimate, and it was going to cost a lot less than I thought it would. I would be able to afford it. Like, it was fine. And then, when I was leaving work today, my check engine light came on, and it started, like, jerking when I would drive. So.
Oh, that's not good.
Nope. So I am pissed for a couple reasons. Number one, they did not, like, there was no indication in anything that they told me yesterday that this was, like,
a problem.
A problem. So I'm pissed about that. I'm pissed because if it's, like, a genuine problem and not just, like, I don't know, some weird one-off.
Yeah. My
car's being screwy. Like, I should be happy about this, but we just bought tickets to Disney World last night.
I saw that. We didn't talk about this. I saw that in your story.
I know. But I did that because we came back from my car inspection, and I was like, it's not going to cost as much as we thought it was. I have the money. Like, let's just do it. We're already going to be in Florida for your friend's wedding. Like, we might as well go. But now it's great. I just dropped all that money on Disney World, and there might be something seriously wrong with my car. So we left the car in the parking lot outside of my work. We're going to go get it after we're done recording here.
I'm sorry, Guff. I hope it's good news. I hope it's not expensive. I know engine shit can get really expensive, so I'm hoping that it's not anything major.
I'm just frustrated. Like, I can't imagine that there's anything seriously wrong with it. Are we cutting all this out? Because I've just been bitching the past, like, 5 minutes.
You're fine. I'll clean it up. Don't worry.
Okay.
I'll do my magic.
I'm just so... I want to be in a good mood. I want to be excited because I'm going to Disney, and
You're going to Disney?
Fucking love Disney, but at the same time, I'm just like, the only reason I bought these tickets is because my car was okay. So it's just frustrating, but it's fine. It's all... Anyway.
I'm sorry, Guff Puff.
It's okay.
But you're going to Disney. You're going to go to Disney. That's so exciting. Go for me.
Excited.
I'm going to live vicariously through you.
Okay.
And my childhood self will just, like, frolic around in Disney ears. Or Mickey ears, whatever they're called.
I want us all to go someday. As all my friends. I want to go.
Wait, what?
I want to go with all my friends someday.
Oh, I thought you said something about a ghost. I was very confused.
No.
Oh, you said go. Go.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's the antibiotics, the fever, the ear infection.
Oh my god.
It's everything. I can't hear.
It's the vapors.
But yeah, I would love to go on, like, a friend trip. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna ask how you're doing because I've spent the past, like, 10 minutes.
No, you're good. You're good. I am doing well besides dying. This is the second week in a row I've been ill, which is really frustrating. And, like, I'm always sick. And so, like, I just, like, burst into tears. They was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm just so sick of being sick. Like last week I had the flu. It was so bad. Like I was just dead. I woke up in the morning. I was fine the night before. I woke up Sunday morning and like I just didn't feel right. And so I sat up, I knew something wasn't right immediately. And I looked at David, I'm like, I don't feel good. I just need a minute. And so him thinking that I'm just like, I guess fucking around or like it's not as bad as I think it is, he like comes over and reaches and like tries to like playfully like shake me, and he's shaking me and I'm like, please don't touch me. Please stop this. And he's just like trying to be cute and I'm like, I am in pain. I'm dying. And
Christian will do that. He'll shake me and I'll be like, I literally have migraines. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, like please, like this would be cute under very different circumstances. But it was our anniversary this week, so we just like went out to eat for lunch and then we like walked around Hershey and then like came back to our apartment and played video games and just chilled, which was really nice. Oh, I forgot to tell you, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to those who celebrate.
Yes, everyone should celebrate. There's no wrong time to celebrate love, any kind of love. It's always in style. Love. It's always in season.
Being single on Valentine's Day, it sucks.
I mean, I've been single on Valentine's Day before. I mean, yeah.
I had to think about it.
I did. I was like, I must have been at one point. But, like, you love yourself. You love your friends. I love you.
I love you, too. It's always hard. Holidays where it was so weird because, like, I've been single my whole life. This is the first Valentine's Day I've had a real boyfriend.
Oh, that's right. You weren't dating last year.
I was not. No, we were not.
I forgot.
So,
oh, my gosh. This is so special.
Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day, Guff Puff.
It was very nice. It was very special. But I remembered yesterday, like, when I was single and it would be, like, Valentine's Day. And I'd have to sit there and watch all the couples post about each other on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. And I would just be
now you got to do that
I did. And it was very nice.
You guys were so cute.
I was probably annoying about... No, I wasn't. No, I didn't post that much about it. But
you didn't. Also, he called you a goblin?
Yes.
I thought you were calling him a goblin at first, and I was like, oh. And then I saw it was vice versa, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
No, so I was just getting into that. On Facebook, he made a picture collage of pictures of me and pictures of us, which is sweet. And I told him it's funny because on Facebook, he posted the same picture to Facebook and Instagram with different captions. On Facebook, it just says goblin with a heart. That's it.
Goblin.
On Instagram, however, there's like a little paragraph.
Oh, was there?
Mm-hmm.
I just saw the goblin part.
You just saw goblin and ran with it, though. And you were like...
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he calls me...
That's what stuck out.
Well, that's fair. He calls me goblin.
You call someone a goblin and you think... Like, it's whenever you called Nick a freak. You fucking freak. Like...
That was the funniest...
Like, that's what I thought.
I think of that constantly. It is so funny.
I think of it constantly, too.
It's...
I'm going in for the kill.
You're a fucking freak. I almost killed him that night. I almost murdered him with joy. Like, it was so funny.
That was so good.
It was so good. Probably some of the best work I've ever done.
Yeah, I would say.
Well, the night we saw Anastasia, we went to this, like, sports bar, and Christian and I aren't sports people. Like, neither of us.
Yeah, we aren't either. We didn't watch the Super Bowl.
I didn't watch the Super Bowl either.
Yeah, we didn't give a fuck.
But we went to the sports bar, and he's sitting there, and he goes, did you hear that LeBron did this and this? And I looked at him, and I just go, is this who we are now? Are we people who talk about sports?
Well, I can just, like, hear it with your deadpan face. Like, he's just, like, so earnest. And, like, did you hear about LeBron? And you're like, is this what's happening now?
Yeah.
Is this who we are?
That's exactly what happened. I was like, is this what we do now? We talk about sports?
Except for baseball. Baseball is fine with me. I love baseball.
Yes, the pants.
Good set of baseball
You know
pants.
what? I don't know why, but I find guys who play hockey so fucking attractive. Like, I
never did
hockey guys.
until I looked at I also got some nice booties on them. They do. And now I'm dating one.
Oh, he played hockey?
Yeah, he almost went pro.
Well,
fuck.
Almost
went pro. Yeah, like he was very serious about hockey.
Oh,
like he would wake up at like 3-4 in the morning to practice before school.
Oh my gosh. Never knew that.
Yeah, now you do.
David, I learned something new about you. He can't hear me. He's in his own little world. When I was working at Capri, we had a hockey banquet, and it was this traveling hockey team, and they came in, and I was in heaven. I was like, I was like, yeah, all these hockey guys. Now I'm old enough, like, we go to the Tomahawk games, and I'm like, oh, these are all... I looked up how old the Tomahawks are, because I figured they were, like, college age. And it's, like, 16, and I'm like, ugh!
They're high schoolers.
I was like, fuck! Get me out of here. I can't be going to those games. Because I'm just like... Because I go to hockey. I don't care about people. I don't care about the sport. I care about hot guys, so you can't catch me at Tomahawks games anymore. Because I truly didn't know until I was like, I think like last year. I looked up. Yes. So 22-year-old me is going to Tomahawks games because I'm like, yes. And then it's like, I looked it up and I'm like, oh my God. The oldest is like 18.
The only reason I knew that was because kids in my class were Tomahawks. They played for it.
Really?
I was like, yeah, I was shocked.
Oh, I did not know that. I did not know we had Tomahawks.
I'm pretty positive. I could be very mistaken. Maybe they just played for our hockey team, but that's how I learned that, like, either they wanted to be a Tomahawk or they were a Tomahawk. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's sports.
No, maybe...
could be talking out of my ass.
Maybe I wasn't. Maybe it wasn't just last year I learned this. Maybe I was like 21 or 20 when I figured it out. Well, because like one of them started living with a woman I worked with because they'll come and they'll live with...
A Tomahawk?
Yeah.
A baby?
Yeah. No, like not like a... That was his training family. Like almost like a what's it called? Studying abroad. Yeah, a host family. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then he started dating one of the girls at the high school.
Oh.
Yeah. And she was like 16.
Oh, shit.
And
she's a baby.
We were like, the fuck? And I was like, how old is this guy? Like, she was like, I don't really approve of him dating her. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, I wouldn't either. He's like 20 something. He wasn't. He was like 18. But I'm just stupid.
You're not stupid.
I'm not stupid.
It's a mistake anyone would have made.
Yeah.
I made it.
We gotta cut so much of this. I don't want to sound like a pedophile on our podcast.
No!
That's not what it is. That's not... I didn't know, and now that I do, I'm... you know?
You're icked out.
Yeah. My one coworker, this is... I'm sorry, I keep going on these tangents.
It's fine. I love it.
My one coworker, he's like 19... And we were talking the one night, and he's gay, and he was talking to me about this guy he was talking to, and he was like, he has such a big dick. And he was like, do you want to see it? And I was like, what? I was like, how fucking old is this kid? And he was like, 18. And I stood there, and I was like, no. Like, it's
legal. But
and
like,
that's what he said. Like, he was like, it's legal. And I said, I feel weird about that.
Icky. Yeah.
I don't feel good.
First of all,
that.
did you get permission?
No, of course not.
Imagine dating someone in high school right now.
No, like
you're in such different parts of your life.
Even a senior in high school, I'm like, that feels wrong to me.
Icky. It feels wrong.
Like, oh, but they're 18. Like, oh, it wouldn't matter to me. It still feels weird. Like, creepy. Like, I feel.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's just weird.
But even like, okay, don't. I love Leonardo DiCaprio. Okay,
I know.
Him
I've been wondering. I've been wondering. I've been wondering where your mind has been on this. For those of you who don't know, I don't know what's getting cut and what's making the episode at this point, but I'm just going to go through this like everything's going in. For those of you who don't know, Madison has an unhealthy thing with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a little unhealthy.
I fucking love Leonardo DiCaprio.
David, watch out, because if Leonardo DiCaprio came knocking at the door...
Honestly, that would be it.
Yeah, like, she would be out. She has said, and she knows he's a predator. She has said, I am approaching the age where he stops caring about me.
Yes!
Madison is 24. No, you're 23.
I'm 23.
Okay, you're gonna be 24.
I have a little bit longer. Yeah.
You have 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, a year and a half.
Blondes. I'm blonde.
Well, now he's going even younger.
Yeah! That's what I was just gonna say. He's dating somebody who was born in 2002 who was not even born when Titanic came out. I don't think I was either, but
you
still.
Were not.
I wasn't. But still. Listen, Leonardo DiCaprio, my heart will go on for you. Forever. And ever. And ever. And ever.
So weird. I can't. Like, it's the same age difference between him and this new lady of his as it is between David Harbour and Millie Bobby Brown.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Icky.
That's really gross. That's icky. I actually think he is older than my dad.
Leonardo DiCaprio? How old even is he? 46, right? Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah. He's older than my dad. My dad is 40. Actually, what year is he born?
Oh, no. Leonardo DiCaprio is 48.
Oh, yeah. He's older than my dad. My dad is only I think he's 46 now. Like, we're going on 46. He'll be 46 this year, I think.
I want to love Leo so much, but it is so hard when he keeps dating women less than half his age.
He's so talented, and just look at a young Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, Romeo and Juliet, Leonardo DiCaprio, still my heart.
Madison, he doesn't look like that anymore.
I know, but that's just how I see him in my brain.
I don't even care. I don't care if the person you're dating is legal. If they are half your age,
it's icky.
Gross.
Ick.
Gross. They're not an adult. That's still a child. 18-year-old, still a child.
Yes, I would 100% agree. You know what? This is a great transition
into your story.
It really is.
Oh, perfect. It's perfect. Good.
Perfect. Because my story is about love. It's about undying love, and in the spirit of Valentine's Day,
I'm a little worried.
Would be appropriate.
I'm a little concerned about what this story could be.
Okay, so my story is about love, and I'm just gonna kick it off. I don't know if you've ever heard of this before, but it's a wild story. It's could be, one might think it be romantic, if it weren't so crazy. So I'm just gonna jump right in.
I'm gonna be so upset.
What?
I know this fucking story. I knew it. You said
you do.
You said this story is about undying love, and I knew.
Oh.
I
did.
knew.
Okay. Well, that's what we're doing here today.
Oh God.
So,
fuck.
Carl Tanzler was a German-born radiologist who was practicing in Key West, Florida in the 1920s and 30s. And while we do know the truth about his early life, I'm not going to go into it because it doesn't really matter. And the only important thing is that he fabricated a lot of it to anyone he met. He emigrated to the U.S. from Germany in 1926 with his wife and 2 daughters. A year later, he left his wife and kids and moved to Key West, Florida in 1927. He changed his name and was practicing radiology under the name of Carl von Kossel, or Count Carl von Kossel.
I love a fake count.
He wasn't a count. Yeah, just for the record, he just referred to himself as that. But, whatever floats your boat, Carl. Whenever he was younger, and probably the origin for his countess, how would you count, for being a count, whatever you want to call that, he claimed that whenever he was a young boy, he would frequently have visions that he was visited by his dead ancestor, Countess Anna Constantia von Kossel, who revealed to him his true love, a dark-haired, quote-unquote, exotic-looking woman. And he had this vivid image of her in his mind for decades. On April 22nd, 1930, Tanzler met Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyes, a local Cuban-American woman who had been brought to the hospital for examination. Tanzler immediately recognized her as his one and only true love, the same dark-haired, exotic-looking woman from his visions. In her community, Elena was known as a local beauty. She was very gorgeous, and immediately Carl was infatuated. Up to this point, Elena had somewhat of a tragic life. She had 2 sisters, up until now, only one of which had died from tuberculosis, and the other whose husband had died from electrocution while trying to rescue a coworker from a power line at a construction site. She married at the age of 17 a man named Louis Mesa, and she got pregnant shortly thereafter, but unfortunately she did suffer a miscarriage, which is just really tragic. Mesa left her very shortly after the miscarriage, and he moved to Miami. So he just up and left. He was like, this isn't what I want. Fuck you. He's gone. So Elena, I tried to find whether she was moving or she was living with her parents or whether she had moved back in with her parents. But regardless, she was in the care of family now. And she'd been brought to the hospital to be examined for tuberculosis, which is a disease that killed most of her immediate family. It was fatal at the time, and a diagnosis was basically a death sentence. She was, unfortunately, diagnosed, but even in her frail state, Carl was adamant that he could cure her with his self-proclaimed medical knowledge. With a variety of medicines, contraptions, experiments, he tried desperately to save the love of his life. With the permission from her family, he brought X-ray machines and other medical devices to her home in order to treat her there. She was already in a great deal of pain. Tuberculosis isn't just like, oh, an easy death. No, it's painful. It's in your lungs. You can't breathe. You're coughing up blood. It's not fun. It's painful. So she was already in pain. But then after Carl's treatments, she was in even more agonizing pain on top of that. His remedies included a variety of concoctions and potions that he just threw together, along with devices just being hooked up to her that included electrodes. He thought charging her oxygen electrons with electrodes could cure her. Now, knowing very little that I do about anatomy and chemistry, even I know this sounds like horseshit and just insane, and it makes no sense. I can't even try to explain the logic behind the sentence I just said because there is none. So, in addition to his treatments, he showered Elena with gifts like clothing and jewelry, perfume, fruits, candy, so many presents, and he made his love known by professing it to her. He even bought her a mahogany bed, which would unfortunately end up being her deathbed. Despite being 30 years his senior and in her terminal condition, Carl would not let them stop him or his love for Elena.
30 years his senior?
30 years.
So wait, is he...
Her senior. Her senior. Okay. Her senior. So yeah, so he is older than she is.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but you said his senior.
Did I?
You did.
I'm sorry. 30 years her senior. She was a young lady, and he was Leonardo DiCaprio. Yes. He proposed marriage and offered to care for her for the rest of his life. Even on her deathbed, she refused his offers and advances and never expressed any kind of reciprocation. And while we don't know for sure, she was probably just super confused by his advances and like why he was helping her so much and trying to heal her when they were strangers. Like they didn't know each other.
Right. I can't even imagine, like, you're on your deathbed and someone's trying to hit. It's like...
Yeah! You're literally dying, coughing up blood, can't breathe, and someone's professing... A man who's 30 years older than you is like, marry me, I love you, I'm gonna heal you. You've never met him before. Like, you're strangers, and he's just stalking you.
It's awful.
Like, this poor girl can't even die in peace. Despite his best efforts, Elena died on October 25th, 1931, at the age of 22. Immediately, Carl made a death mask of her. And in case you forgot what a death mask is from episode 1, it's basically just a plaster mold or cast of somebody's face after they have passed away. So he had this immediately made for her. And Carl paid for her funeral, and with the family's permission, he commissioned the construction of an above-ground mausoleum in the Key West Cemetery. What his family didn't know is that he had the only key to the mausoleum. One report claimed in addition to embalming her, he insisted there be an airtight casket with an incubator tank of formaldehyde to prevent decay. I only found that in one report, so I don't want to say that was definite because I couldn't confirm that and compare it with other sources, but that's pretty crazy. He would visit the mausoleum every single night, claiming Elena's spirit would talk to him and sing to him. He even had a telephone line installed in her crypt so he could speak directly to her. He continued showering her with gifts on his nightly visits for 2 years, and even claimed her spirit would tell him to take her from the grave. Just a side note, during this time, Carl was fired from his job in radiology for unknown reasons. I would have to say it's probably because he's a Looney Tune, but yeah. I don't know specifically what Looney Tune thing he did to cause him to get fired. But there's that fun fact. He's got a lot of time on his hands. So, one evening in April of 1933, 2 years after Elena's death, Carl went to the cemetery, as usual, like he did every single night, except this time, he took her body from the mausoleum. He transported it on a toy wagon and took it home with him. To his horror, as dead bodies typically do, Elena's body had begun to deteriorate. Once he got home, he tried his best to preserve her body and keep it intact, and tried restoring her in his makeshift laboratory, which he built and he called Elena's airship. His plan was to eventually bring her back to life, thinking he could fly her high into the stratosphere so that the radiation from outer space could penetrate her tissues and restore life to her somnolent form. That's a quote, and again, much like the other quote, I don't know much about those types of things, but even I know that doesn't sound plausible. Carl continued to modify Elena's body to keep it as preserved as he could make it, the extent of which was only discovered through an autopsy nearly a decade later. And in this process of preservation, he wired Elena's bones together with a piano wire and coat hangers to help keep it safe. And so to help keep its shape and enable it to move, kind of like a Barbie doll with like wire in her arms, you know, like those ones that can bend. Yeah, he did that. He replaced what was left, if anything, of her eyes with glass eyes. And over time, again, as a dead body does, her skin was rapidly decomposing and falling apart. So he replaced it with silk cloth that he had soaked in wax and plaster. Still continuing to decompose, as her hair fell out, he made a makeshift wig, which he stapled to her head. And he actually used some of Elena's real hair because after her funeral, Elena's mother, knowing how much Carl cared for her, gave him some of her hair. And so he used that in his wig. He also stuffed her body with rags so she could keep her original form, and dressed her up in her own clothing, stockings, jewelry, and gloves. He used a ton of perfume, disinfectants, and preserving agents to mask the smell of decay. And just thinking about like how bad this was smelled, like did you have to dissect anything in high school?
No.
I had anatomy class and I dissected a fetal pig, which is a story for a different day. It was the runt of the litter, actually. And so, like, some of these people had, like, these giant-ass pigs with, like, fully formed organs. Ours had, like, no fully formed organs. We were supposed to, like, identify the kidneys, and, like, there was no kidneys. There was actually, like, 2 little lines where the kidneys were supposed to have been formed. And, like, because we were looking and we're like, we're not dumb. We know there's kidneys in here somewhere. They can't just not be here. But they weren't, because they hadn't formed yet. Yeah. So anyway, tangent. Thinking about dissecting that pig. So the pig was soaked in formaldehyde to prevent decay. And every day after class, we would then put it back in the bag to keep it airtight. And even though it was soaked in formaldehyde, we worked on that pig for like 6 weeks, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks. And it smelled like, even soaked in formaldehyde, like a marinade, like it was still smelling like decay. So I can't even imagine the smell that would come from a human body that is 2 years deceased. Like, I just can't imagine that. I didn't even get to the worst part. The worst part of all, there was a tube inserted into what was left of her vagina. And while Carl never confessed to committing necrophilia and there was never concrete evidence of it, Carl did keep Elena in his bed and they slept together every night.
That's so gross.
Yeah. I don't want to say you do the math because but you do the math. Why would there be a tube there? For no other reason than to put a tube there. That's awful. So Carl actually kept this up for 7 years. 7 years. She had been dead for nearly a decade. But he wasn't exactly going undetected, and people were starting to notice his odd behavior. Like I said, he would visit Elena's grave every night for 2 years. So people did grow pretty suspicious when he just suddenly stopped showing up.
Right.
So they thought that was weird early on. And then just because Elena was dead, even at her gravesite, he would keep showering her with gifts, and bringing her home was no exception. He continued to shower her with gifts. His neighbors thought it was really strange that he was buying women's clothing and jewelry and a ton of perfume. Who was it for? I mean, not that men can't wear women's clothing, but especially at the time, it was very taboo and unheard of. And, you know, you do you, but that just does not seem to be that case. Where's all of it going? A neighbor boy also claimed to have seen Carl in his bedroom window dancing around with what looked like a life-size doll. Yeah. Soon, Elena's sister and only surviving family member, Florinda, heard these rumors, and she also started to grow suspicious. So she decided she was just going to give Carl a visit one night and confront him. Shockingly, Florinda didn't even have to put up a fight because Carl proudly took Florinda to his bedroom to show how well he preserved Elena's body, thinking she would be grateful for the work he had done to keep her in good shape. He was proud of this. It was his life's work, essentially. He was very wrong. Understandably, Florinda was horrified and called the police and had Carl arrested.
Good.
Carl was shockingly found to be mentally competent to stand trial for, quote, wantonly and maliciously destroying a gravesite and removing a body without authorization. But, like, that's it. That's it.
Man, I mean, like...
I mean, at the time, stealing a corpse was not a crime. It was the early 30s, so I guess they just didn't think, like, we should put this in the books, like, officially as a crime. So there was that. But after a preliminary hearing, the charges were dismissed because the statute of limitations for the crime had expired. And for obvious reasons, this case grew wide attention across the state and country. And surprisingly, or like not at this point, because like how much more shocked can we be? The general mood from the public towards Carl was sympathetic. Most people just viewed him as this eccentric, hopeless romantic. They thought it was so romantic that he just loved her so much he couldn't bear to be apart from her for one day. A second funeral was held along with a public viewing where nearly 7,000 people showed up just to take a look and gawk at this just horrific monstrosity. Local schools even let out early so kids could take a look. They had field trips for the kids to come here. And some people even had the gall to ask Key West if they could just seal her off permanently and show her off and display her just for everyone to see as like a tourist attraction. And once again, she was just reduced to a spectacle, and it's just horrible. Like, I can't even imagine. Possibly emboldened by the public's positive response to him, Carl had the nerve to ask the judge for Elena's body back. Like, do I even need to, like, obviously, Florinda was just like, fuck you. And the judge, I read, like, the judge was basically like, fuck you too. That's gross and awful. But after her viewing and second funeral, Elena was put to rest for a second time in an undisclosed location in an unmarked grave to avoid any further tampering. Carl paid one last visit to Elena's mausoleum before he left Key West and returned to his wife and kids in 1944. Remember, he does have those. Apparently, his wife was just fine with what happened or didn't know about it, but like, how could she not? She was living in Florida and everyone knew about this. But apparently she was chill at this and supported him for the rest of his life. Suspiciously, though, 2 hours after Carl left the mausoleum, it blew up. And no one really had any doubts that it was Carl who did it, but they didn't really have anything to prove it. And I have a quote here that says, "What other person could have the motive to show the officials what the real wanton and willful destruction of a tomb looks like?" Carl still had Elena's death mask. Her family didn't even get it. And he used this to create a life-size effigy of her. Basically, he just remade Elena as a mannequin instead of her actual body. And he lived with it until his death at the age of 75. Again, remember, he's still living with his wife at this point. And she's, again, still just somehow fine with all of this. There were rumors that Elena's body was actually returned to him and he died with her real body, but that is not known to be true. Carl died, and he wasn't found until 3 weeks after his death. And that is the story of Carl Tanzler and poor Elena.
I hope he's in hell.
I hope he's in hell, too. That's just awful.
I can't, like, I hate men. I hate men so much for shit like this.
It's awful. And people were sympathetic. People were like, oh, he's just a hopeless romantic.
Like, this reminds me so
much
fucked. of Hugh Hefner, who paid to have his body laid to rest above Marilyn Monroe, like, facing her.
Yes.
And, like,
fuck you.
There's a man next to her who paid thousands of dollars to be laid to rest next to her, face also, like, his body is also facing her.
That's so,
like, even
disgusting.
In death,
even in
women
death,
are not safe. Like,
no, even in death.
When Anne Boleyn was beheaded, her chambermaids ran to her. They picked up her body and they moved that shit as fast as they could because they were worried about what men in the audience would do to her body.
Yeah. It's awful.
Even in death, women are
beheaded.
Not safe. And it is the most
infuriating.
Yeah. I hope that Carl Tanzler is burning in hell. And I hope that he is constantly in immortal pain.
I just heard this true crime story literally yesterday about this woman who had been in an abusive relationship on and off for years. And one day she was murdered, and literally all signs pointed to her boyfriend, who was abusive and notoriously abusive, but everything was just circumstantial. There was like, even he had blood on his shoes and like his bloody footprints in her house, but his lawyers used the defense of, he beat up on her so much, you can't prove that this blood was from her murder because it could have just been from any other time he was beating the shit out of her. So he got off scot-free because it was all circumstantial. And even more fucked up, whenever he died, he bought the plot next to her.
I hope he's also in hell.
Yeah, they actually did have a fundraiser to move her mother's body so she could get away from her abuser. But like it's fucked. Sorry. I'm also heated right now. I'm sorry. But yeah. Happy Valentine's Day.
So once again, I have to pick things up. I've got to brighten the mood.
Yeah.
Once again, one day it's going to be you. One day I'm going to have the heavy hitting.
Listen, you did last week.
Well, yeah, it's true. That's very true.
Yeah. Last week I was upset. Horse.
Forgot about that. I have a question for you.
I have an answer, maybe.
What? How do you feel about mermaids?
How do I feel about them?
Yeah, how do you feel about them?
Like, as in, do I feel contempt for them? Do I respect them?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, how do you feel? How do you feel about mermaids? It's a pretty simple question.
I'm mystified. I'd love to be one.
I personally think it is nearly impossible for them not to exist.
Really?
Not impossible.
Okay. Are you going to tell me about mermaids then?
I am going to tell you about mermaids, and I'm going to explain to you. My argument is going to be made.
Okay. I will play the devil's advocate. I love The Little Mermaid. That was my favorite. Right. It still is.
So here's my thing so people believe in aliens, right? Because like, how can there not be aliens out there?
Yeah.
The universe is never ending. Space is vast. Like, how can aliens not exist, you know? Mm-hmm. That's kind of why I believe in mermaids. Over 80% of the ocean has never been mapped, explored, or even seen by humans.
Yes, that blows my mind.
We've seen more of the moon and the Mars, We've seen more of the moon and of Mars than we have of, like, the deepest depths of the ocean.
Yeah.
So I believe mermaids to be real. Do I think that they're like Ariel Little Mermaid kind of mermaids? Probably not. What do you
imagine when you think of like a mermaid?
You know the Harry Potter mermaids?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Terrifying.
I get behind that.
I don't think they're like. I think that they're like humanoid fish people, kind of. Like that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at on that. I think that they are real. And since the 2nd century, at least, people have been claiming to see.
I can't even imagine the 2nd century being a time.
Right? Well, imagine it now in Gaul. Mermaid corpses found washed on the shore.
Actually?
Yeah, mermaid corpses were found to be frequently washed up on the shore with their bodies covered all over in scales, as stated by Pliny the Elder.
Pliny the Elder. What a name.
Yes.
I want to be an elder someday.
Pliny the Elder.
I want someone to respect me enough to be Madison the Elder.
And then 18th century Blackbeard's logbook. He mentions mermaids. The pirate Blackbeard mentioned mermaids in his logbook. Even going so far as to like write in his logbook like stay away from certain areas because of mermaids.
Kind of like a siren type of thing?
Yeah. Christopher Columbus claimed to see mermaids. Historians say that they're manatees. I think I said that wrong. Manatees.
Manatees. I was like, what? Like the
humanities? They're manatees. Sorry.
Manatees.
Manatees. It just doesn't seem like a word you can mess up, but...
Yeah, but you did it.
But I did it. The K Islands in 1943, Japanese soldiers of World War II saw many mermaids. These soldiers claimed the mermaids were like 5 feet tall, had spikes on their spine, their shoulders, and their neck. And the local villagers in K Islands of Indonesia had their own creature that they were familiar with. And they called it the orang ikan, which translated to manfish.
Okay.
These soldiers stationed in the islands had multiple claims of encounters with these manfish. They recorded not one, but many different sightings, claiming they all saw the same thing. They were said to have light pink skin and a mouth like a carp. And instead of a single tail, they had 2 frog-like fins and arms.
What do carp mouths and frog-like fins look like?
Oh, boy, I don't know.
I'm looking it up. Oh, okay. Basically think of a fish mouth, and that's what a carp mouth is.
That sounds fair. That sounds right.
That's really literally it. And frog fins? Those are I typed in frog fins, and all I got back was like scuba fins. So maybe that was it? Maybe they are like maybe they don't mean like actual frog fins. Maybe they mean like scuba fins.
I'm not sure.
Do frogs have fins? Do frogs have fins?
A sergeant named Mr. Taro requested the villagers of this village in Indonesia to inform him if any of the orangutan were captured, dead or alive. And the soldiers summoned the general soon after, who saw these creatures with his own eyes as well. After the war, Mr. Taro tried his best to get the scientific community involved, but that didn't happen. In 1967, a ferry with a group of tourists, like all the tourists on this ferry, claimed to spot a mermaid on the beach. And it seemed like she was eating raw salmon.
Oh. It's cannibalism. Is it?
I mean, I guess
partial
it would
cannibalism.
be. I guess. Charles White from the Undersea Gardens was desperate to prove of this mermaid's existence and offered a $25,000 reward for the mermaid's capture. And he even was like, I've got a room for her at this fancy, swanky place, and I'll put whatever she wants in it. But nobody could find this mermaid, and as time passed, the story died out. In 1998, a boat of 10 people claimed to see the same exact mermaid.
As the one from the 60s?
No. Just the same.
Oh, you mean they all saw the same? Okay,
yeah,
okay,
at the
okay,
same
okay.
time.
At the same time. Gotcha. Sorry.
A diver managed to take a photo of the mermaid swimming past, and experts claim it is real. Jeff Liker, a diver who was a videographer for Jack Diving Locker of Kauai, claims that he not only saw but came into brief contact with the mermaid. He was 20 minutes off the coast of Kauai when he saw what looked like a woman just 10 feet away swimming with a pod of dolphins, and was able to keep up with their fast pace, which Liker was like, that's weird. How is she doing that? She suddenly jumped into the air, revealing her fishtail. And there were 10 people on the boat that said they saw the same thing. They saw her jump twice, and then she disappeared. An hour later, when Liker was diving and taking photographs of marine life, the mermaid brushed against him while she was swimming away. He quickly snapped images and was able to catch her on one photo as she swam away. And these images were submitted to 3 high-profile photography labs who analyzed them and said the images were real and hadn't been tampered with.
Where are these images? I want to see.
I'm looking at 1998 mermaid sighting photos. Ooh. Is this the photo he got? Because that's a good-ass photo. For those of you listening at home who would like to see the picture, all I did was look up 1998 mermaid sighting photos. Yeah. And I believe the at least first 2 are the pictures in question. So, I'm not entirely sure, but it seems right. In 2009, there were multiple sightings of the same mermaid on Kiryat in Israel. Some onlookers claimed that there was a creature that resembled a young girl who would often be found on the beach and doing tricks in the water. And when the news spread, the government got involved. They issued a $1 million reward for anyone who could provide solid proof of the mermaid's existence. Capturing the mermaid wasn't necessary. Just a photo was good.
Okay.
When the news got out, NBC got out to do some investigation of their own with a film crew at Kiryat. They filmed morning and night above and below the waters, and they hoped to get some footage of this mermaid. And late one night, the crew claimed to have seen a human figure dipping into the water. They did their best to follow the mermaid and capture it on camera, but it was too late. The mermaid disappeared, and the crew was left without solid proof. And all the footage by both the crew and by any bystanders were transferred to the Center for Coastal Ocean Research in Los Angeles. The center's director, Michael Schacht, examined the evidence and said that although it was impossible to clearly state that the figure in the footage is a mermaid, it still remained a high possibility. The $1 million reward still stands, and tourists and locals are still on the lookout. And finally, in 2012, there was a dam blocked in Zimbabwe, and divers were sent to fix the blockage of the dam, and every diver they sent down there resurfaced and said they would not return to the waters because they had seen a mermaid.
Wow.
The government didn't believe the local workers and hired workers from outside areas, but even these new workers reported seeing the same thing and refused to go back down there. A lot of people in that area had no doubt about mermaids existing and claimed that they've seen proof, and even the mermaids themselves, and to this day, the dam is still not finished.
Jeez Louise.
So, those are some of the fun stories I could find about mermaid sightings. There are a lot of interesting, YouTube videos that people post, which, and again, and with this picture too, it's I take any kind of visual evidence of mermaids with a grain of salt.
Yeah, because, you can just put those fins on.
Yeah. They have really,
tail. Lifelike tails.
Yeah.
It looks like fish scales.
Yeah. So I take those with a grain of salt. But I even though I do believe that, mermaids are real, I feel like everyone's, gonna listen to this and be like, you're a Looney Tune. And you know what? Maybe I am. Maybe I am a Looney Tune, and that's okay. But...
you said that they were confusing manatees for mermaids. Not that
manatees look very
different.
From
what you think of mermaid. Not that mermaids can't, be a little chubby, but manatees are literally called a sea cow.
Yeah.
And they have a face of a walrus.
Yeah. I don't know.
I will say, when I was looking up the manatee and mermaid photo, I found a very interesting photo of a beluga whale that could be mistaken for a mermaid. This makes more sense than a fucking manatee. I can send this to you, but this makes more sense than...
Yeah, I don't know,
that.
But Christopher Columbus was also just an idiot.
Stupid,
and
sexy beluga whales.
What?
That's what this caption says. I'll show you the picture.
Okay.
But the caption said, it's on a Reddit thread, and it says, stupid, sexy beluga whales.
Well, anyway, that's all I've got this week. I just think mermaids are really cool.
That was really interesting. I love that. I appreciate you bringing this to the table. This is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, I saw that picture when I was looking for the
the
1998 mermaid picture.
Yeah. This I can see. For the people who are listening, the beluga whale, it's this image, it looks like there are two legs that are fused together and a mermaid fin. So yeah, I can get behind this.
I can get behind that. I can't get behind
fucking manatee.
No.
Stupid sexy.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I got.
Anyway. Thank you so much for listening this week. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have topics that you would like us to cover, feel free to send them in to myexistentialcrisispodcast@gmail.com, or just feel free to DM us. That's fine too. We'll take it. We'll take what we can get. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at MECrisisPod. If you have Apple Podcasts, please rate us, and that would be really nice. Subscribe us so you can keep listening to other episodes if you want.
Why wouldn't you want to? We're so
I know.
fun.
Don't you like us? You can hear us talk about Leonardo DiCaprio and sexy whales. It's fine. We're fun. It's great. We're doing great.
Bye.
Bye.